Is it finally happening, ladies and gentlemen? Are we finally getting a big change in the British tiara landscape? Because Queen Camilla decided to wear the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik Tiara at the recent diplomatic reception, one that was previously worn by Princess Eugenie.
There are moments in the royal family when nothing needs to be said for the message to be heard. No speech, no announcement, no official briefing. Just a single, deliberate choice that speaks louder than words. And at Windsor Castle, during one of the most prestigious evenings in the royal calendar, Queen Camilla made exactly that kind of choice. A choice that startled royal watchers, touched the public, and sent a wave of meaning toward two women who have been quietly enduring the fallout from their father's scandal. It wasn't a statement, it wasn't an interview, it was a tiara, one of the most expensive and most symbolic in the entire royal vault, worn by the Queen at a moment when the York sisters needed it most. And the message, though unspoken, was unmistakable. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. The story begins at the annual Diplomatic Corps reception, a glittering spectacle held within the historic walls of Windsor Castle. This is not an ordinary royal engagement. It is formal, grand, and steeped in tradition. Ambassadors and high-ranking diplomats gather to pay their respects to the monarch, while the king and queen present themselves in full regal splendor. For Queen Camilla, this meant a breathtaking ivory gown embroidered with intricate detailing, refined, dignified, and strikingly elegant. But it wasn't the gown that caught the world's attention. It was what sat atop her head, the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik Tiara. This was not a predictable choice. Camilla has a long-established pattern when it comes to white tie events. She typically alternates between Queen Mary's Russian Kokoshnik tiara, the aquamarine ribbon tiara, or pieces closely tied to her personal royal journey. But this time, the Queen stepped out wearing a tiara that has rarely been seen in public, a tiara with deep emotional ties to another royal woman entirely. It was the very tiara Princess Eugenie wore on her wedding day. In 2018, Princess Eugenie's wedding was one of the most anticipated royal events of the decade. Her choice of tiara sparked immediate fascination, the striking, Art Deco-inspired Greville Emerald Kokoshnik. The late Queen Elizabeth II personally loaned it to Eugenie for her wedding, and in doing so, created a symbolic bond between the princess and the jewel. That connection was unique, intimate, and memorable. It was the only time the tiara had been worn publicly in generations, until Queen Camilla placed it upon her head at Windsor Castle. Because of this connection, Camilla's decision is being widely interpreted as a symbolic gesture. Not a confirmed message, there was no official explanation from Buckingham Palace, but a perceived signal of support directed toward Eugenie and, by extension, her sister, Princess Beatrice. This interpretation is unverified, but its emotional impact has grown rapidly across commentary and discussion, primarily because it fits so naturally within the current dynamics of the royal family. The York sisters have remained popular among the public despite the controversies surrounding their father, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And at a time when their family faces intense scrutiny, the reappearance of Eugenie's wedding tiara on the Queen felt far from accidental. The tiara itself is steeped in history. Crafted in 1919 by Boucheron, the renowned French jeweler, it originally belonged to Dame Margaret Greville, one of the most significant society figures of her era. When Greville died in 1942, she bequeathed her extraordinary jewel collection to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. That collection later passed to the late Queen Elizabeth II, and much of it has rarely been seen outside private royal events. Among these treasures is the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik Tiara, one of the most spectacular jewels in the family's possession. Its design is bold and architectural, a platinum frame set with rose-cut pave diamonds and adorned with 6 emeralds, culminating in a centerpiece, a 93.7-carat cabochon-cut emerald of astonishing depth and color. Maxwell Stone, speaking on behalf of diamond specialists at Stephenstone, has described the tiara as one of the most valuable in the vaults. According to their estimation, the piece is worth £10 million, making it the most expensive tiara they have ever studied. These details, attributed specifically to Stephen Stone and Maxwell Stone, help explain why Camilla's choice was so remarkable. This is not a casual accessory. This is a royal masterpiece with financial, artistic, and historical significance. And that is where the deeper story begins. In royal circles, tiaras are never chosen at random. They are statements of continuity, symbolism, status, and alliance. They carry memories. They evoke the spirits of the queens and princesses who wore them. They remind observers of relationships, loyalties, and the unseen emotional threads running through the monarchy. So when Camilla wore Eugenie's wedding tiara, many interpreted it as a message, again, not confirmed, but deeply felt. Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice have endured a turbulent few years. Their father's scandal cast a long shadow over their lives, even though they themselves did nothing wrong and never contributed to the controversy. Their popularity among the public has remained steady, but they have often found themselves standing on the edge of royal politics, welcome in private, sometimes visible in public, but rarely included in the core circle. Seeing Camilla wear a tiara so closely associated with Eugenie at such a high-profile event felt to many like a soft reassurance, a quiet acknowledgement, a sign that the younger royals on the periphery of public duties are still part of the royal story. There is also symbolic depth in the emeralds themselves. Emeralds have been associated for centuries with friendship, peace, and harmony. Maxwell Stone himself remarked that emeralds are said to promote domestic bliss by enabling the wearer to both give and receive unconditional love. In ancient Greek and Roman mythology, emeralds were connected to Venus, the goddess of love. Whether or not Camilla wore the tiara with these symbolic meanings in mind is unverified, but the layer of sentiment adds richness to the gesture. In many ways, the tiara becomes more than a jewel here. It becomes a bridge, a connection through time. It links the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Princess Eugenie, and now Queen Camilla. 4 women across 4 generations, bound through one extraordinary piece of craftsmanship. Wearing it publicly, and wearing it now, invites observers to draw connections and meanings, even if those meanings remain unspoken. Inside Windsor Castle that evening, the air was filled with diplomacy, formality, and ceremony. Cameras flashed, diplomats bowed, the king greeted nations represented in gold and velvet. But one of the most moving elements was the serene presence of the queen, her tiara glinting under chandeliers, its emerald centerpiece reflecting the warm light of the reception hall. For just a moment, the tiara reminded everyone that the royals, beneath the jewels and hierarchy, are a family, with bonds, tensions, loyalties, and unspoken gestures that communicate more than press statements ever could. Princess Eugenie herself has always been close to her grandmother, the late queen, and that wedding tiara was part of that story. The queen personally approved it. She offered it with love. Now seeing that same tiara on Camilla could be seen as a continuation of that bond, a reassuring reminder that the connection between the monarch and the York sisters endures.
And then there is the wider context. The York sisters have endured judgment and speculation because of their father's associations with Jeffrey Epstein, associations that have created enormous public fallout. Andrew continues to deny wrongdoing, and the allegations remain unproven. But the shadow remains. Through all of this, the sisters have walked a difficult road. They have remained loyal daughters without aligning themselves with their father's controversies. A gesture of support, symbolic or otherwise, carries weight here. Some commentators have gone even further, suggesting that by wearing this particular tiara, Camilla might be expressing solidarity with Eugenie and Beatrice at a time when the York family is under immense pressure. Such claims are unverified and interpretive, but they highlight the emotional resonance the moment has created. In the world of monarchy, where silence often speaks louder than words, tiaras are powerful storytelling tools. They represent continuity, connection, intention, and sentiment. They show who is honored, who is remembered, and who is being supported, not through announcements, but through symbolism. This is why Camilla's choice carries such fascination. Because at a time when the royal family is balancing duty, modern expectation, public pressure, and private turmoil, a gesture like this feels intentional, even if no one confirms it. The tiara's history strengthens this interpretation. It was given to the Queen Mother by Dame Margaret Greville, a woman known for her close relationship with the royal matriarch. Its lineage ties it to the pillars of the modern monarchy. It has only been worn publicly a few times publicly, and for it to reappear now, and specifically in this context, feels meaningful. And then there is Eugenie herself, a beloved royal who has always been seen as warm, genuine, and compassionate. She and Beatrice have maintained close ties with her grandmother's legacy. They remain symbols of continuity even as the monarchy transforms. Camilla wearing Eugenie's wedding tiara brings Eugenie's story back into focus. It reminds the world of that joyful day in 2018 when she walked down the aisle with confidence, elegance, and pride. It reshapes the narrative around the York sisters, shifting attention away from Andrew's controversies and toward the women who have consistently represented strength, kindness, and resilience. By the end of the evening at Windsor Castle, the message, if one existed, had been delivered. Whether it was intentional or simply a matter of aesthetics, the effect was powerful. The tiara shone brightly, and its symbolism spread far beyond the reception hall. It reached the public, the commentators, the royal watchers, and most importantly, it may have reached the heart of Princess Eugenie, a reminder that even in the midst of turmoil, the family still sees her, still values her, and still honors her place within the royal story. And perhaps in its own subtle way, it reached Princess Beatrice as well, because when a queen chooses to wear the tiara that defined one sister's wedding day, she honors both daughters of the family. That is the power of a jewel, not the diamonds, not the emeralds, not the craftsmanship, but the emotion it carries, the meaning it absorbs, and the unity it can quietly restore. In a monarchy often defined by silence, duty, and restraint, this one tiara may have spoken louder than any official speech.